for every one woman who commits suicide, 4 men commit suicide. You can see just by that statistic how little support men have. And not only do they not have the support, but within the male social structure, it is not seen as healthy to talk to men, talk to each other about our sexualities, about our struggles, about our stress, about whatever problem we're facing at the time. It can never be seen as vulnerable.
You are and will always be your most valuable asset. Welcome to the Me Inc. podcast, a series of conversations with individuals living happy, healthy, and engaged lives, while exploring the importance of emotional intelligence to thrive in this ever-changing world. My name is Nigel Franklin, a CPA, MBA, and a certified emotional intelligence coach. My mission and passion is to enable others to be that best version of themselves by understanding the importance of making investments in their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Let's start the show. Today, I'm thrilled to share an episode that I believe holds the key to understanding the deep intersections of our emotions, choices, and identities. I sat down with Justina Victoria, a leading psychosexual expert for men and couples, for a conversation that promises to be both enlightening and transformative. We delved into the intricate pathways of emotional intelligence, the challenges that modern men face, and the nuances of attachment styles in our relationships. So wherever you are, take a moment, maybe a deep breath, and join me as we navigate the emotional architectures that sculpt our lives. Justina, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Right? The Me Inc. concept is to be your best self, you have to make investments in your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. And so I've been doing that for a long time. I'm an athlete by background, but a couple of years ago, I talk about it as a point in life where I went off autopilot. So I was living in Asia for about 3 years. And although I was thriving in other aspects of my life, I was finding myself, I was searching. I called it my me search period. I found that I was lacking in one area. And it was an area that I did not previously consider, which was I didn't necessarily have a partner to share things with. Maybe many people may not agree with that, but I think that's what I'm holding. Like for me to feel like I'm in a good space and a good place, it's important to have someone to share things with. And that's my deal. You're smiling, so you can jump in right away if you're smiling like that, but go for it.
Okay. I'm going to come from like a scientific standpoint to prove all the naysayers wrong. That we are wired for connections. If you have never heard of the vagus nerve, if you're listening to this, you've never heard of the vagus nerve runs from really like the back of and top of your head all the way down the front of your body to your groin. And it's split into 3 sections. So from the bottom of your chest up, we have the ventral vagus, where your belly is your sympathetic pathway. And then below that is what we call the dorsal vagal. The ventral vagal comes online when we are in a state of well-being. So if the nervous system is neurocepting that all of our needs are being met and we are safe from danger, that system will be online. And that is what we call our connective system, or like our social engagement system. That state is the state of, I say it's like truth. It's like who you are. It's your core being when you're in well-being. It's where you experience elevated emotion. And that is the only state where we connect to other people. So we literally are hardwired, like our nervous system is hardwired for connection, and we can actually only experience well-being when we feel safe. It's called safe and social. So this is literally the ventral vagus is safe and social. It's like we're feeling safe and we have other people. That
Family
is
or like romantic people?
all of the above.
Social abundance. I like that one.
Yeah.
You're not going to get off the hook that easily, right? Because I geek out about this stuff. But I think the idea of the podcast still is to get people to know the person behind the voice, right? Like, it's finding people who are doing cool shit in the world and understanding how they found their way there. Because there's a lot of people looking for inspiration and looking for help, but probably at that crossroads of finding that thing or jumping into their thing.
Yeah.
So let's start with, who is Justina Victoria.
Who I am. Like, that's such a big question, though.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And we go back to the origin, family, where raised, the things that contributed to who you are today, who's sitting in front of me today. So,
wow.
not all the way back to the womb,
I'll give
but
you
as
the whole
far
time
back.
now.
Yeah.
All the way back to the womb.
Not all the way back there.
Contributed to who I am today as far as what I'm doing in the world, or like...
Yeah, who you are. Because I think sometimes you're not defined by the work, right? So we're defined by, part of the work. Work is a big part of it. But I think who we are is a large part of how we were raised. Life experiences are dictated by those same circumstances. Think about it as the emotional intelligence assessment at the end of it. There is so much of how we show up today that's correlated to who we are and who we've become, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. I feel this ties in perfectly with our topic today, which is relationships with people. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. My parents are, I don't even know where to begin. My God. So I was born in New York.
Okay. That's a good start.
So there you go. And both my parents are from New York. My dad's from the Bronx. My mom's from White Plains area.
And you were raised where?
Westchester.
Okay.
Let's just say Westchester because we built our houses and stuff. My dad is Italian. My mom is half Italian, half Irish. And they had really tough childhoods, like really tough. My dad is essentially the first generation to not be in the mob. He wanted to go the complete opposite direction, break that link, and became a cop. And that was it. Did not want anything to do with his father, who was like an arsonist for the mafia and stuff. And same thing on the other side. My mom, not that my mom was, her family also was in the mob, but she also became a cop. But she bounced between banking and then working at the jail with the criminals, it was really funny because my parents are very hard people. You could get along with them. If you met them, you would think that they're hilarious and fun and they're like the life of the party. But my mom will physically harm you if she has to. She's very tough. When she used to work at the bank, we used to have this joke because she would come home at the end of the day and just hate everyone's guts because she had to be nice to people all day. And then when she started working at the jail, she would come home with rainbows shooting out her ass because she just didn't have to be nice to anybody. So that kind of gives you an insight. My dad he was a cop, but then he was also an entrepreneur. So he owns his own like telephone company, legitimately built it up from the ground. He just reads books and he just does stuff. It's kind of crazy. He left school when he was in 6th grade. So they came from a background of just a lot of dysregulation. You can imagine like a lot of alcohol and divorce and drugs, mafia, all that kind of stuff. So they just did their best with me and they did really a lot better than their parents. But 2 parents giving birth to a child at 20 years old who are highly dysregulated people really causes a lot of issues. And that's most people, I would say in our generation, they have parents who, gave birth to them from a young age. That was very typical in the 70s, 80s. And I did not know the first thing about regulating their nervous system. My childhood was what I thought was really fantastic, but I had a lot of issues in my life. And I was always drawn to personal development and relationships. I was obsessed always, as far back as I can remember, with the mysteries of love and sex. And now looking back, in hindsight, I can really understand why that is. So when you grow up with parents who are highly dysregulated, you can't regulate your nervous system. And what happens is you grow up with what's called insecure attachment. And so insecure attachment is this inability to attach to your caregivers in a way that consistently meets your needs, respects your boundaries, and validates your emotions. A lot of people have this. A lot of people. Men specifically as well, because there's this sort of societal conditioning of things, just those things you hear all the time, which is little boys don't cry, things that is an invalidation of feelings. So just something like that alone can cause a child to become insecurely attached to caregivers, that invalidation of their feelings. So growing up, I did have a good life. I did have a great family. We had a lot of tragedy when I got in my teens. My grandmother died of cancer. She was the center of our family. She died. Then my great-grandmother died. Then my parents got divorced. My grandfather moved away. And then it was just me and my brother, but I am older than him. So I was gone. He was at home. And it was just a very turbulent time after the age of 14. So I decided, okay, well, this is broken. So now I'm going to go figure out how to live life properly. And living more out of that sort of fight or flight place, which is all I've ever known, I was able to build a lot of shit. So I built a lot of businesses. I was really successful. And this was way before I'm doing what I'm doing now. But still, always trying to learn and grow, because you just know something is off. Something isn't working well here. And I'm sure when we go over my assessment later, we'll talk a bit about that, the big emotions. But I just I didn't have anywhere near the language or terminology that I have today. But at the time, it just felt 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know why I'm so dysregulated, or I'm upset, or I'm stressed, or whatever. I had all kinds of health issues and things happening to me, and I couldn't put the pieces together. And no matter how hard I tried to be better or happy or organized, I just couldn't get to that place. So that's where it started.
Okay, where it started. So you said other businesses, because this is a unique path that you're on now. What did you do before?
I was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I had a couple different businesses. I was a hairstylist for 14 years and owned a salon, which I just sold recently. I just had a lot of different things.
So psychosexual expert, how do you find your way to that? Because I'm sure everyone is already sitting at the edge of their seats going, okay, let's get to that part. How did you find your way to that?
So all this built up to that, essentially, like my inability to have long, sustainable relationships, like healthy, happy, fulfilling, sustainable relationships was a big core, on top of trying to figure out, why are my emotions so all over the place? Why am I so stressed? Why am I so dysregulated? What is it that I'm doing wrong? And it took a long time to be able to narrow it down to one thing. But that was my search. That was where I knew I wanted to go. I wanted to be a doctor. That was my dream after high school. Before I graduated, I was, this is what I want to do. But my family didn't have money to send me to school. So I was like, okay, what could I do to put myself through school? That's how I ended up in hair. But then once it came time to go back to school, and I did go back to school, I really had to reassess, because I don't want to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I don't know that I can deal with the red tape. And I just don't know that I actually believe half the stuff they're teaching in medical school. So I had this it was a very strange thing. I woke up one morning just out of dead sleep and was just like, I want to be a coach. I never had a coach. I didn't know any other coaches. I didn't even know what a coach was. And my husband at the time was like, what's that? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm quitting school and I'm going to help people. And I did. I quit school and I went online, and I got this like really shitty life coaching certification online. It was so bad. Could not help anybody with it. Right. But this was in probably like 2015. So it was a while. It was like the coaching industry has exploded over the last maybe 3 or 4 years. So back then there really wasn't anything like that you could go to school and figure it out. So you just had to start working with people. So that's how I ended up coming into this. And then at the time, I was having problems in my first marriage. So we got along really well. We did have a good relationship, but there was no sex drive at all. Like I had nothing worked down there. It was like, get away from me. I am not having sex with you. I was switching career modes and like path for my life. At the same time, I was trying to figure out, I love this person. I'm in love with him. I'm attracted to him. I'm married to him. Why can't I get it up for him, for lack of a better term? I literally just could not figure out like why I don't have any sexual desire for this person. And in fact, when he comes at me to be intimate, I'm like, get away from me. I run into the other room. I followed who is then my teacher. Her name's Layla Martin. She's one of the top 4 sex, love, and relationship coaches in the world. And she put out this email one day and was saying that she was opening her school, Tantric Institute of Integrated Sexuality. And when I read the curriculum, I was like, that's it. This is what I'm meant to do with my life. This is everything.
What is your family, your husband? Because there's a certain stigma working in that space. When you said, okay, this is where I'm going now.
They're just like, that makes sense. Like my family is highly inappropriate. Right. I have a highly inappropriate family. So we have just already a sexual or sick sense of humor, always poking fun or being perverted. So they were just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So you had the support, right?
Yeah.
You had the support.
They didn't care. They were like,
and then what's the path then? It's interesting because it's two very different worlds. Like you're changing. So you're doing something that's already sustaining you. You stop to do something else, right? You're switching again and then you're changing again. What are you carrying? How are you mentally?
It was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. It was scary because when you first start doing something new, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You just know you want to make an impact, but you just don't know exactly how to do that yet.
And where does that confidence come from though? Because it's dark and you're still taking that first step, right? You know, because your comfort zone, you probably had your bubble, let's say in the hair industry, right? And you're doing well.
Yeah.
But now you have this passion or this inclination to move in a direction that you don't know exactly what's there. So how do you make that first step?
I have just always been a person that just does. I don't. My parents used to say I put the cart before the horse, and that's just what I do. I do things before I'm ever prepared to do them.
But isn't that something? So thinking from me, someone who's extremely structured. And when I say structured, so I did track and field. So we would train for an event. We would start training in June of the year, July of, let's say, 2023 for an event in May of 2024. And that was my life for a long time. And there's such precision in what you're doing. It's not like your guesswork. It's not like it's guesswork, right? So there's no ever putting the cart the cart before the horse.
You're like,
right?
I'm just gonna go run in this competition now.
Yeah.
And I've never even tried to practice.
But that's interesting because I see it happen so often. So I was doing triathlons for a while. And then someone would just wake up one day and say, I want to do an Ironman. It took me like 8 years of training and stuff. So I'm admiring the fact that you were just able to do it because it's not a muscle, let's say, that I have. Maybe it's something that I should probably work more on. But have you reflected on that? Because that sometimes seems to be the harder way to do it.
This is actually a hallmark of the type of attachment style that I have, which is called fearful avoidant. We are very easy to put the cart before the horse. That's just a trait that we have. And it comes from having a highly stressful environment growing up. So that's the comfort zone. Comfort zone is stress.
Really?
Yeah. So
I've never thought about the comfort zone
that's
as
my
being
bubble.
stress. Okay, that's your bubble. So it's chaos in
yes,
the
chaos.
bubble. And then when it's calm, then
that
you're worried.
That is uncomfortable. That is where we're like, there's a problem here.
That's it. It's too calm.
Yeah.
But
that makes people go crazy who live in stress. Yeah.
It's really strange. So it's one of the things that I'm learning is sometimes in the same dating experience and everything else, you'd meet people and there are certain things that will trigger them. And you're like, okay, well, I'm not sure that was me, but it's like I'm offering you something good and it seems to be something bad.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's like almost like the guy who's, you're too stable for me.
Yes.
So it's okay. All right. So that's interesting. I just jotted down fearful avoidance because I think I identify with that. So you're on this path. You applied for the school once she'd opened it up?
Yes. And I was so nervous because I was like, when I saw the syllabus, I was like, this is my life purpose. I am absolutely 100% sure of it. And I think there was 1,000 applicants or something ridiculous. And she was only accepting 150 people or women because it was only for women. But obviously, long story short, I did get in. It was great. I think that she could have easily broken down what we did in a year into 4 years. It was very intensive. She herself was probably working and teaching probably 80 hours a week because this is the first year the school's open. Everything was live. And because it wasn't just learning how to help people solve problems in their sexuality, you're having to go through a complete deconditioning of your entire sexuality as you are learning how to hold space for other people in this realm. So you're just seeing people have meltdowns left and right. It was wild. It was wild.
What are you learning as you're going through this new process?
I remember my teacher, I remember very specifically, she said this one. I don't know why this stuck with me because it was not something that she was like teaching. It was just an offhanded comment where she was talking about how when you start to create a new neural network, there's a day where something triggers the old one and the new one at the same time. And you can see both paths and you have a choice in that moment to choose which path you want to go down. You can go back down the old thinking, feeling, behaving, or you can step into the new version of you. And then it happened. And I was like, oh my God, both networks are activated right now. Like, it was crazy to have that embodied experience. And that was just probably, I would say, one of the first moments of like true awareness that I ever had. Because I believe that awareness is choice. So that was a true choice for the first time.
I am totally with you on that one. We really do have the opportunity to create what we want through the choices that we make. And that's all you have the current moment. That's all you have. Once the two pathways open up and you have to make the choice, how do you make that right choice? And I don't know there's such a thing as right, but how do you make a different choice?
You make the new choice because the new pathway has been created. That is the choice. The choice is the new network. It's just that instead of when you get triggered and you think, feel, and behave as the old version of you, which is what we always do because that's all we know and that's the only way we've been programmed, we practice a new way of thinking, feeling, behaving. And now we've installed a new network. And so in that moment, this is the crux of when you know that you have installed a new network because they both activate. You get triggered and both of them activate at the same time. And instead of just going straight, being blended with the old version of you, thinking, feeling, behaving from the old, maybe it would make more sense if I put an example on it. Let's say you're trying to, so let's say I have a client who is unblending. We use the term unblending from erectile dysfunction. Okay, so right now, the way he thinks, feels, and behaves is in alignment with the experience, the physiological experience of having erectile dysfunction. So when he goes to have sex, his sympathetic system turns on, okay? And he starts to think thoughts that are aligned with that. Oh my gosh, am I going to be able to stay hard? Oh my God, am I going to be embarrassed? What is she going to think? Is she going to be happy with me? Is she going to be upset? And these are the thoughts that he's having. And then the feeling is fear, anxiety, feeling not good enough, etc. And then the behaving is this sort of like, it's different for some men, but let's just say in this case, it's like an awkwardness because the sympathetic system is on. So he's in survival and he's not really in control of his movements and like how he's acting or responding in the situation. So that comes online. Okay, so sorry, hold on, put that on the side. So I'm practicing with this person a new way of being, right? So we can actually install the program before it happens of how you would think, how you would feel, and how you would behave if you did not have erectile dysfunction ever again. So the version of you that never experiences erectile dysfunction, who is that person? And we literally start to practice mentally rehearsing that person. So that network gets installed. So then he goes into a sexual situation and he can actually feel the old network trying to seduce him back into the old thinking, feeling, behaving.
Right.
Yeah. And then but the other one is activated as well. And he's, I'm not like, I am completely aware. I'm observing. I'm the observer. I'm not just blended with something. And so that's what it, okay. I hope that makes sense.
I'm listening. So I'll give you a couple of things that are coming up for me as you're saying it. So the way, like I've held myself out as so conservative. I'm always so concerned about how people would receive it. It's really interesting. The first time you said sex, it was like, my nervous system went, and then you went erectile dysfunction. It was, holy shit. Okay. And there's all this other conversation that's happening. But I actually do, and I'm smiling because in everything in life, the cognitive framework of think, feel, do is always present. And you talk about the observer's effect of things. If you can't actually, the way to change is to be able to see and understand your actions and then take the power away from your subconscious. So much harder.
It's very hard because you have to find the container. That's the hardest part of it, is like literally finding the edges of that piece of you.
Right.
The network, because it's a specific network. So if you can find the edges of it, that I think is what takes the longest. It's not the actual transformation. It's not the practicing of the new part of you. It's actually finding and being completely aware of every aspect of that network.
But let's say you're dealing with someone who's 45 years old. Those neural pathways that you're actually fighting against, they're so deeply seated in, so deeply embedded that I'm acknowledging the difficulty. What's the biggest thing that you would say that you would advise for change, that helps someone to embrace that new pathway? So you're looking at both, and now you're saying, okay, this new one, what is that thing that you would say keeps people moving more so in that direction?
Keeps them motivated to do the process of creating that new network. Mm-hmm. Pain. When you experience,
really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're a man, what would happen to you if you had erectile dysfunction?
I didn't think about that yet.
Yeah.
I think it would be a loss of identity. I think we all struggle with enoughness, right? Mm-hmm. So I can see it being a series of thinking and feelings that would definitely cannibalize your confidence and your security. Or
that's a great way to put that, cannibalize. Yeah. Shrinks. Mm-hmm. Your confidence is shrinking. Your posture, everything about you is shrinking, really.
Wow. So as a Black male, and these are some of the things that we're doing. I'm 6'1". I want to be 6'4", and I keep telling people that I want to be 6'4", and I'm holding out for it. If I show up in the world in a certain way, I've always had to be, I think, I've always had to show up as demure, and so that I'm not the angry Black guy. I'm not the aggressive Black guy. I'm not. So it's like really interesting that we're talking about this, because those are pathways that you constantly, it's like almost I would show up in the world, and then I'd have to go do shit that's hard, so that I balance it out, so that I remember who I was, and so that I can continue. Yeah. So it really is, and this is the first time I'm admitting this, is I would go to work, and I would sit there, and I would accept things that are like, I'm like, I know that's not how the world is, and I know that's not how I should show up. It's not energetically where I want to be. It's not even heartfelt in where I want to be. And I would have to accept it for the paycheck, for whatever else. Mm-hmm. But then I would have to come back, and I would have to balance it out by finding things and ways to do things that would kind of counterbalance all that time. I'm just reflecting as we're talking. But I would see it shrinking. I would see getting smaller. I would see losing it.
Do you think that's sustainable for you?
I don't think it's sustainable.
Could you continue living that way forever?
No. But I think yes and no. A lot of people do it. But if you continue living that way, there are other parts of you that will die.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think it's really not thriving. And that's the conversation about that same Me Inc. stuff. It's like thriving. How do you get up and want to go? That you don't have to kickstart the engine every day. You want to get up and be fully engaged with life. Mm-hmm. That's where you show up and you can bring joy. You can bring like your true self. You don't have to worry or be afraid of being received in the wrong way or caring too much of what other people's opinions are. But yeah, I think yes, in some places I've seen people do it and do it for a paycheck and then lose a certain part of themselves along the way. Mm-hmm. But I've seen some people do it, but I don't think that's the way to go.
Yeah. So when you ask me, how do you get somebody to stay motivated to do this kind of work? Because it's very difficult. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're a person who comes in and you're in one of the overload states. So if I have clients regularly who come to me that are in panic, mm-hmm. and they're in such a hypervigilant state, they're so blended with the biochemical state of stress that they actually cannot see anything accurately. The ventral vagus is our state of well-being. It's where mm-hmm. all of our needs are being met. So think of it as the state where there are no stress hormones pumping through the body. That's all it. Right. There's no stress, okay? That's the state where we just are ourselves. We have full brain function. Mm-hmm. When we go into the stress states or the dysregulated states, we lose functional areas of the brain. So we actually cannot think straight. I also want to circle back to something else that you said too, which was like, you were like, by the time you hit 40, you have this sort of way of thinking that's almost permanent. But the brain and nervous system are plastic until the day you die. So you can change. That's what neuroplasticity is. You mm-hmm. can change anything about yourself that you want until the day you die. When you hit 35, a lot of those programs that you have running are rigid, but they're not permanent. So a lot of people will say things like, oh, this is just who I am. This is just how I am. I've always been this way. And it doesn't have anything to do with anything. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Well, you've never played the piano before. Practice the piano. You become a pianist. It's really just that simple.
The same thing with emotional intelligence. IQ is static. Emotional intelligence, you can improve it until you're ready to retreat from the world. So mm-hmm. that may be retirement. I'm fully on board with neuroplasticity. And so much so, when I started grad school in 2020, I realized that it was 20 years since I was in school, structured learning. So we got together a group of friends. We read the book Limitless, and then we went through a 21-day memory retention course where you did speed reading. What percentage of people coming to fully embrace that or understand the power of neuroplasticity? And so what percentage of people do you think buy into the neuroplasticity stuff when you meet them?
I would say it depends on how it's explained to them, because I would say that 100% of the people that I talk to about neuroplasticity are like, oh, yeah, okay, that's available to me. And
do you think that's because they're already to the point you out, or they're coming for help?
Yes. But also, it's like saying, does your heart beat? Yes, obviously my heart beats. This is just how the body functions. We create neurons, and then those neurons link together and they create networks, and then those networks become pathways. And we're doing that all day, every day. We're talking about like science. We're talking about physiology. This is how the body functions.
I smile because you're saying science, but there's so many people who would discount science on a whole.
That's true.
Before we move on to the more individual part of the conversation, how did you find that specific space to go into? Because you're the first person in this space that I've met.
There's not really many of us. I only know one other person who does something similar to what I do, but not exactly what I do. Nobody does what I do specifically, because it's something that I developed. I went to school with women, and it was a school for women, about women. And there was one tiny little module on men's sex. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this because I think I want to work with men. And I watched it and I was like, okay, what did that have to do with anything? It was a bunch of tantric practices and whatever, but I was like, what does this have to do with helping men? When I got out of school, I remember the one thing that I read that really pushed me over the edge, that I was like, I'm dedicating my life to working with men, was I read the statistic that it was the male suicide rate is 4 times higher than females.
Wow.
And
that I didn't know. Just taking a brief pause here. If you're finding value in my conversation with Justina, it would mean the world to me if you could like, follow, and perhaps share this episode. Spreading the word helps more listeners like you join our explorations and discussions. Now let's continue with the enlightening insights from Justina.
Yeah, it's horrible. For every one woman who commits suicide, 4 men commit suicide. That is a huge disparity. Huge. So I just was like, I'm going to dedicate my life to solving men's problems and improving their quality of life. But the problem with this at the time was that there's no like men's studies. Like you can't go to college and be like, I'm signing up for men's studies. This is not a thing. For men, everyone's just like, fuck them. They've been ruling the world for too long. They're pains in the asses, whatever. They make more money than everybody else. And you can see just by that statistic, like how little support men have. And not only do they not have the support, but within the male social structure, it's not seen as something that is healthy to talk to men, talk to each other about our sexualities, about our struggles, about our stress, about whatever problem we're facing at the time. You can never be seen as vulnerable. You can never be seen as weak. You have to be always competing with everybody. And at the time, like I said, there was no way for me to learn about men. I just had to start working with men. And that's all I did. I spent thousands of hours working with men and studying them and interviewing them and trying to figure out, how do guys think? What is their core conditioning? What are the problems? What are the things that matter to them? And I'm going to solve those problems. So like with erectile dysfunction, at this point, I have a 100% success rate in curing erectile dysfunction and sexual anxieties. And that took time to get there because I had to figure out exactly why this was occurring in the first place. Even with clients who come to me, who I call like special cases, be like people who come to me and say, the doctor told me I'll never get an erection again because I have like venous leak or something. I haven't had an erection in 10 years. Even with those people, we can completely reverse that. And it's through, I would create these theories about why this problem was coming up or what was happening in the nervous system. And then I would create a formula for it. And then I would give the client, you talked about data, right? Give the client the formula. And then I would have them use that, come back to me with data. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on this. We're going to do this exercise to unblend. This is what you're going to do when you're in a sexual experience. And then you're going to come back to me and we're going to go over every detail of that to see what moved the needle. And then I'm going to look at that and I'm going to tweak the formula.
Okay.
So that's like how I got into specifically working with men. And now what I'm doing, I get so excited about, is I'm now starting to teach other coaches how to work with men. And I am like, oh my God, I love it.
Okay. All right. So back to the suicide rate. I'm curious about it. What is the driver of it?
My opinion from working with men and from what I know about the nervous system, there's a lack of connection. So women have a bit more connection. Their feelings are more validated. Their needs are more met than men. So men experience more emotional pain and then they repress the pain. So they have a stronger dysregulation that happens within their nervous system. So like when you go into the dorsal state, that's the state where we commit suicide. So the stronger the dorsal state, and dorsal is the furthest away from ventral, meaning that in that state, we self-isolate because we're the furthest away from feeling connection that we can be.
Okay. Back to the point that we were just making of being able to create what we want. In that space of couples, what advice would you give to help people co-create something that's thriving?
I would say...
And you're smiling. So you have to, before you give me the answer, you have to give me what brought that big smile about.
The smile comes from years of trying to figure this out and now really understanding it and being so excited to share it with other people.
Cool. Right.
And
so this is breaking news on the meeting podcast.
This is breaking news.
Right.
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh, come on.
Okay, breaking news. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really attachment style. So if you have an insecure attachment style, which most people do, you have to understand the pattern of that. So the same way there's a pattern for each state of the nervous system, there's really a black and white pattern for attachment styles. So you have 4 different attachment styles. You have secure, you have dismissive avoidant, you have anxious preoccupied, and you have a fearful avoidant attachment style.
That's the anxious avoidant.
Fearful avoidant, anxious avoidant. Yes, anxious avoidant or disorganized. So those 3 insecure attachment styles were basically created through having caregivers that consistently did not meet their needs as a child, did not validate their feelings, and did not respect their boundaries. It's pretty simple. The type of patterning, thinking, feeling, behaving that you go into, dismissive, anxious, or fearful, is going to be based on the type of neglect that you experience.
I'm only smiling because being from the Caribbean, growing up there, you weren't allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
So none of those things were considered. Those were not needs that we had, right? So I think that's for the entire region.
Yeah.
I might speak for the entire region. Okay. So you're
and
saying,
that's for most of the world, to be honest with you. You lived in Asia. Really, like we could just lump all of China into that category, Korea. Most Asian cultures are going to be dismissive avoidance. If you've ever known anybody with Chinese parents or Indian parents even. I actually have a lot of Indian clients as well. And it's interesting because there's like this whole thing of there's no emotion. We're not dealing with emotion. It's just logical. We go to school, we become a doctor, get over it. Whatever your problem is, repress it. So it is definitely, I see it as like a cultural thing because it's passed down generation to generation. But yeah, even in America where we have lots of different cultures, it's a melting pot, really. There's still this underlying sort of systemic societal conditioning of like, your feelings don't matter. And needs, like, you need to feel like you belong. You're a loser.
All right. Okay. So all right, I have a question, but I'm asking this for a friend.
Okay.
So I'm asking for the friend. So if you have an anxious attachment style, how do you work on that?
This is what I want you to tell your friend. Okay.
Right.
All the insecure attachment styles can heal and move back to secure because we're plastic, right? If you believe in science.
I believe in science. And my friend believes in science as well.
So what you're doing is you're really isolating the core program of each of those insecure attachment styles. They're all the same, but just slightly tweaked as far as the core belief goes. So if you grow up with parents who consistently met your needs, validated your feelings, and respected your boundaries, your nervous system automatically creates a core program that you're just good enough. That's it. So I always say like people with secure attachment, their story is just like, of course my needs are going to get met. Like, of course my feelings matter. Of course my boundaries are respected. That's all they've ever known. So that's their core program. That's what's familiar to them. people with insecure, so any one of those other 3 attachment styles, their core program is shame. And the shame is, I'm not good enough. So under the dismissive avoidant, it's all about how I'm not worthy. Under the anxious preoccupied, it's all about how I'm going to be rejected and abandoned. And under the fearful avoidant, that's me. Fearful avoidant is the best because it's both attachment styles in one. So you're like a nice little ping pong ball that goes, please love me. And now you love me. Ooh, get away from me.
Congratulations.
So the fearful avoidant has all of the belief systems of the dismissive and the anxious. And then it has its own where there's like this constant focus on being betrayed. Mm-hmm. So they all are shame-based. They're all based on you not being good enough in some way to get your needs met, have your feelings matter, and your boundaries respected. Mm-hmm. But the core like narrative that is created is based on the type of neglect that you experienced.
Okay. So then back to co-creating.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things where couples can show up, partners can show up well for each other?
Yeah. So this is where like when you understand the attachment styles, secure versus insecure, if you have an insecure attachment style, it means that your ability to identify and communicate your needs is compromised, identify and communicate your feelings is compromised, and identify and communicate your boundaries is compromised. So what happens is typically 2 people, and there's different stages of relationship, but focusing on the first 2, you have the honeymoon phase and then you have the power struggle phase. In the honeymoon phase, you're like, woo, everything's great. We're meeting each other's needs. We're like meeting lost pieces of ourselves through each other and all this like wonderful stuff. This is if you have insecure attachment, which most people do. And then when we move into the power struggle stage, what happens is our core program starts to come up that not good enough, and the fears of not being worthy or abandoned or betrayed start to surface. And we start to look for the things in the other person that are going to affirm that story. So when you talk about co-creating, what you want to do is co-create a relationship that will heal the underlying insecure attachment and help you move back to secure. Right. Like literally rewire you back to secure.
So start practicing those things.
So you're practicing
communicating your boundaries, communicating your needs.
Yes.
Okay.
Identifying.
Identify. Okay.
But even before that, what you both want to be doing is learning about the relationship that you have to your own needs, feelings, and boundaries. Because that is the thing that's really impaired.
That's interesting though, because if you go back to that same upbringing, you don't necessarily have needs, you have duties, which is really interesting that you're saying that. My friend will appreciate. My friend really, really appreciate it. So one of the things that you talk about though, and one of the things that even got us talking was that balance between masculine and feminine energy, how we can intertwine that into co-creating thriving relationships.
We have masculine and feminine energy is in all of us, 50-50. So like your feminine energy is going to allow you to recharge, to be in flow, to play, to like dance, to feel your emotions. You're like, no. To feel your emotions, to connect to yourself, to be in the present moment. And your masculine energy is going to be future-oriented, forward momentum, connection to your truth, and powerfully moving through the world in that direction, and control and leadership and achievement and all of that. It's the yin and yang, right? That's literally what it is. So when we're by ourselves, we create that polarity within ourselves to be healthy, be balanced. And when our needs are met and our ventral system is online, that happens naturally. There's no like, I need to be masculine, I need to be feminine or whatever. It's just what you are. And then in relationship, it's a little bit different because in relationship, what we're trying to do is balance the masculine feminine energy dynamic. If you are a heterosexual man and you're with a heterosexual woman, then you would likely, if your needs, feelings, and boundaries were all like being met in a secure way, you would naturally be in your masculine most of the time. Let's say 80% of the time, okay? And your female counterpart would be in her feminine. And I hate using the frame like in your, because it's like, you can't be in it. Like it would be like saying a dog is in its dogness. It's a dog. So
the neighbors all know that I don't have a good relationship with dogs. That's why I'm smiling. So they everyone's trying to get me to pet their dogs.
Are you
in
a
the
cat?
community.
Are you a cat guy?
I'm not a cat guy. I just walk by and I smile and I keep moving. Anyway, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So in your femininity.
So you're in your dogness and you're not like in it, right? It's just you're just in a state of well-being or not. And when you're in a state of well-being, then that deep core energy that creates a sexual polarity. You're literally like two magnets that are coming together and you create a magnetism between you. And that's actually what creates the sexual chemistry. So when that starts to fizzle or the energies become unbalanced because neither of us are sustaining a ventral state, our needs, feelings, and boundaries are not being met properly, so we can't sustain nervous system regulation. We fall out of that polarity.
You talked about your first marriage and some of the struggles that you're having. What did you learn about looking back, if you think about co-creating the things that you're talking about, the knowledge that you have now, and also the balance of masculine and feminine in that ventral state? What did you learn about
all of the above? All of the above was off. I had the insecure attachment underlying, right? So my ability to identify and communicate my needs was literally, and like we talked about on the assessment, was extremely poor. So what you typically do with that is you mind read your partner, you meet all of their needs in hopes that they will just figure out yours. And then when they don't, you start to create really strong resentment, which then deactivates you, right? So then the connection is impaired. For me in that relationship, I worked a lot of hours. I would work 12, 14 hours a day. I really neglected myself. I wasn't like eating properly. I wasn't drinking enough water. I wasn't taking enough time off. I was just working myself to death because my partner just never worked. So it was 8 years of just like me being in the masculine role, the one who is leading and directing and controlling and right, in the relationship. So I could never come back to my own softness. I could never come back to my own femininity or my ventral state because I was constantly being crushed to death by stress. That, again, is of my own making, but not on purpose because I'm unaware of it. Going back to the idea of awareness. This time, I don't understand that I have insecure attachment. I don't even know what that means. So I have this underlying insecure attachment where I can't communicate my needs, and I'm using all of my maladaptive strategies that I created in childhood, which is what underlies all those different, types of insecure attachment, to try to hope that my needs get met, but they never do. So I become more and more depleted over time.
Okay.
So there's the sexual polarity was gone. Like there was no way that my body would surrender or open to my partner because he was always in the quote feminine. Like he was just passive. He wasn't taking action. He was not helping me.
Oh.
Does that make sense? So it's
it definitely does. I'm guilty of, if I show up in this way for someone, then they in turn will maybe show up in this way for me. Just so the audience know, Justina's carrot was that if she came to the podcast, I was going to cook for her. And then also make this, like, as we were trying to figure out the schedule, I did throw in dessert. So we had dinner with the neighbor. We were joking that if I was to do all of those things in a standard relationship or meeting someone and dating, it's actually often received as weird or off. For me, it's joy, and I like being of service. I like helping. So it makes me feel good to do something for someone. And it's something, this is who I've always been. But that is a problem in some ways. So you're saying maybe today that what was it? So it was the Bang Bang chicken, coconut rice, and then the freshly made vanilla bean ice cream and scone. Those can work against me in the real world. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's definitely not what I'm saying at all. Definitely not. Definitely not.
It really is something that's received weird. It's amazing how, like, we have the tapes that are playing, or that same cognitive framework that we use, that's not based on the present moment, but play into so much of the interactions that we have. How do you experience it now in a different way than, let's say, when you were married?
There's a couple of layers to this. It being received weird in general, like from women in general or from society in general, that all comes down to, again, insecure attachment, because it's not really about the activity that you're doing. What does that have to do with anything? How, and I say this to my clients all the time too, because they're always like, I need to, like, they always come in with this like neuroses of, I need to be a man. And I'm like, but you are that. So going back to the dog thing, it's if the dog like buries a bone in the backyard or sniffs another dog's ass, is it like a dog now? Or if it didn't do those things, would it still be a dog? Right. So it doesn't really matter like what you do. You still have an X and a Y chromosome. So we have that. That's like the baseline. So there's no must be it, must try to be it. The activity itself cannot affect what you are on a material level. It's just what you are.
Yeah. And I was at a barbecue yesterday and we were talking about the state of the male-female interaction. So there was someone met a long time ago, went on a date with, and they were like, I had a hard week. And I was like, well, come by. I'll cook you dinner. Right. And it was just simple, right? It was like second or third date. If your week was that hard, and come by, have dinner. And the next time we actually chatted was going to be a while between seeing each other. I think I was going to be away. So I sent flowers. I was like, looking forward to seeing you the next time. And she thought that was coming on strong. But what was weird in it is that, and by the way, I've learned along the way that you don't argue with people who have a different reality from what you have.
Yeah.
But if you were curious, I cook most Sundays and my neighbors and I, we sit and eat like today. So and I brought the custard and I bought scones for the neighbors, right? And I buy myself flowers every Thursday.
That's nice.
Right? You know what I'm saying? But that's something I must say I got from one of my classmates. It was like the little things that you can do nice for yourself that is out of the ordinary that you can say, I love me. Yeah. It's so, but in that same setting, if I'm doing those things for myself, I should be able, and I can consistently do it for someone else, but they would receive it in a negative way.
What we typically do is we internalize everyone else's stuff. Their thinking, feeling, behaving, we internalize that to mean something about us. But the truth is when we look at the situation objectively, right? Somebody with secure attachment is never going to go, what's wrong with you? You're coming on too strong. That they don't register that. But somebody with insecure attachment is going to feel threatened by somebody coming at them with strong feelings, right? Somebody who wants to love them, wants to give to them, that does not feel familiar. And according to our nervous system, what's not familiar is a threat.
Okay.
So that's why people act like that. It's all she's communicating to you is this don't feel familiar. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. I have never received this much affection from somebody this early on. I really don't know what to do with that. And then we take that and we go, it might be weird.
But I didn't. And that was the cool thing. So,
but most people do.
I didn't because, and it's messed up to say this, and I didn't go out of my way. I did something that I would have cooked dinner that Sunday anyway.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. It was almost like, and this will sound really bad, but it was almost like a certain amount of self-importance that was the person took upon themselves. No, I was going to cook. It was Sunday. I was going to cook. You were just invited to have dinner.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not saying it in the right way. So I'll stop before I sound like...
No, it makes sense. It makes sense though. But that's the thing is most people would internalize that. So, and I want to make this broad for everybody who's listening because it's like that is our typical response is to take whatever somebody else is saying or doing or feeling and being like, that's a reflection of me. That means something about me.
Right.
But in reality, it's just like that person is telling you about themselves. They're going, however you're acting right now is unfamiliar to me. So if on the third date, you're like, I'm going to just make you dinner. That is a window into that person's childhood who is, whoa, that's too much for me.
Yeah. We were talking about culturally how things are different. And if you're if you're vibing in the same way, like none of that shit matters, right? Excuse my language, right? Because you would know, you would be self-aware enough to get out of the way. I think I'm enjoying this and I'm trying not to go down any more rabbit holes. So I'm going to go back to your EQI assessment, right?
Okay.
And I know we touched on it and we can go anything that stood out at you because you're working in this space and it's interesting that I like meeting people who are helping people to develop, who are very keen about their own development as well. It warms my heart. And that's one of the new things I'm adding to my vocabulary, my warm heart. I'm trying to lead more with my heart.
That.
But it warms my heart.
That's the cornerstone of masculine energy, by the way. I love that so much.
Let's stop right here. We're done. I'm trying to, though. It does take a lot of effort. to show up consistently. And even if you're not getting the right feedback or you're not getting the right outcomes, to still hold that frame of, hey, this is how I want to walk through the world.
Yes.
But what jumped out at you from the conversation that we had around your emotional quotient?
First thing is just like, I am really working hard to rehabilitate myself from insecure attachment. That's what I'm working on right now. And then you can just see that perfectly in the results there. It's like especially the assertiveness, which was pretty low. Assertiveness would be all about asking your needs to get met or setting boundaries, which is what I'm trying to rehabilitate from. And then also there was something there that you had about the emotional, what was the one that you said, like with big emotions or something?
So emotional self-awareness, where you're feeling a lot.
Yeah.
And not necessarily always having constructive ways of communicating how you're feeling.
All those are exact things that underlie the insecure attachment. So right now, that's what I'm working to rehabilitate from and to move back into secure attachment. So what I think would be really cool is to come back in 6 months and redo the assessment and see how those specific things have changed.
Yeah. So the next person on the podcast, we did our assessment like in 2021 and then did it again in 2022 and in between worked on it. And back to the same thing that you were sharing in your approach to helping people, there are neural pathways there are things, behaviors, thinking, feelings that you're identifying and you're then practicing to create that new space that you can operate in, which is just the same thing, right? So I think a lot of times individuals look at the emotional intelligence assessment as a test. But it's not a test. It's just an assessment. It's just a snapshot of where you are currently.
Yeah.
So anything else that jumped out?
Let's see here.
Anything that surprised you, actually?
I would say I would have thought my problem solving would be a lot higher. Only because I feel like that's all I ever do all day is problem solve.
But it's interesting that you hold space for everyone else, but this is in your life.
Yeah.
So it would be the equivalent of, let's say you're now holding space for everyone at work, right? So you have 5 clients on Friday and then you go home and then you're bombarded with something by your partner and then you don't have the capacity then to say, okay, I've done this much work for others here.
Yeah.
Now I'm home.
Yeah.
And I don't have that bandwidth to do this for myself.
That makes sense.
I call it being professional at work and amateur at home. It gets me in so much trouble.
Yeah. Like not real time. Like my problem solving usually comes after the fact.
So you would blow up and then go back to it.
I don't know that I would blow. It depends on the situation. I could just repress and then come back. For example, in my previous marriage, it would be like, obviously repress all my needs in an effort to maintain attachment, because my core belief is that my needs are a burden to others. So they'll leave, they will abandon me if I have needs. So you stuff all that stuff down and you meet the needs of the other person.
In hopes that they would meet you.
In hopes that they will come back and be like, oh my God, you're the best. Here's everything you ever wanted. And then, so what I would be doing most of the time is this maladaptive strategy of problem solving, like constantly trying to think of like a manipulative way to get my need met without ever having to say it. Right. So in my kind of weird brain, I'm like, oh, I'm problem solving all day. But not really. That's just a maladaptive strategy, really.
That's interesting. So you're just creating additional stress on your nervous system.
Exactly. For funsies.
For funsies. So that ping pong experience that you then just got. All right. This is so cool. I think I can keep going and talking. If there was one theme or one thing that you can share now that's top of mind for you, top of heart for you, of how you're looking to help people, how you're looking to show up in the world, what's that one thing?
Oh yeah, attachment styles, 100%. That's number one for me right now. And really, like, when I've there's been like these pivotal moments in my life where I had to go through something like really extreme. And then I learned something like unbelievable after that. So like I almost died and I had PTSD and dissociation. And then I learned polyvagal theory, which was what I was explaining before about the vagus nerve. And that changed my life. That healed me completely of PTSD and dissociation and things. Like most people live with that the rest of their lives, and I'm cured. It cured me of an autoimmune disease that almost killed me. Like It's amazing stuff. And it's also very simple. And when I went through that and I had to learn that in order to save my own life, and then I brought that into my practice, it literally changed my clients' lives. And it got me results like I never had before. So now I'm layering on top of that what I'm learning and studying in insecure attachment styles. And that has been extremely like life-changing, like in the same level that the polyvagal was for me. This is like the base, the core, where it's like the nuclear core where all the problems in my life have stemmed from. And I can see it with all of my clients as well. So that is the one thing right now that I would say is it's top of mind, top of heart. And every time that I sit down and I start to teach my clients about this, they just sit there and they're like, holy shit. And I'm like, I know. It's amazing.
All right. I would say thank you so much for this experience. For people who want to find you, where would they find you?
Oh, all over the internet. They can go to my website, justinavictoria.com. They can go to my Instagram, the.justina.victoria. Go to my YouTube, Justina Victoria on YouTube. I have a podcast too, but I haven't updated that in a while. So if you want my most updated stuff, get on my email list, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me in just the same space of asking. It's one of the things that we covered on the 10th episode, the power of asking. We met very impromptu, right? We met through someone else. We had a quick conversation, and then here we are. I thank you for trusting and just showing up the way that you did today in such new circumstances. Mm-hmm. I really do appreciate you showing up today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the bang bang chicken and the scones.
Hey,
that needs an applause.
The vanilla bean custard. You can't forget that.
No, that was, forget that. I'm going to be dreaming about that tonight.
That was good. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So what an interesting journey it's been on this episode. Navigating the realms of emotions, choices, identity, and connections. I can't thank Justina Victoria enough for sharing her expertise and personal insights. It reminded me of the importance of fostering connections and the integral role well-being plays in our lives. But more so, what really stayed with me is how much of our behaviors are tied to this feeling of enoughness. For example, I've held the mental model that if I just give someone everything that they would want or need, they will in turn see my value and give me all the things that I will need. Never really articulating my needs and never really fully acknowledging that I am already enough. Another key takeaway was that idea of internalizing other people's actions in a way that diminishes my self-worth. I appreciate you listening to this episode. If you find value in what you've heard today, please like and share, and don't hesitate reaching out to me if there's any way that I can be of service. Nigel@meinkhelp.com or Nigel Franklin Way on Instagram. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your mental energy. Thank you for listening. And until we meet again in this space, take good care of you.